All right, let's go to Jonathan Turley, Fox News contributor, constitutional law attorney, and professor at George Washington University. All right, so let's talk about the constitutionality and the law here. Reading from page 24 of the defense's petition to the state court to throw out the state charges. They cite the law. The exception in the double jeopardy law provides as follows. A person may not be separately prosecuted for two offenses based upon the same act or criminal transaction unless each of the offenses, as defined, contains an element which is not an element of the other, and the statutory provisions defining such offenses are designated to prevent very different kinds of harm or evil. Where does this case fall in that exception, that exclusion?
Well, John, judging from past cases, the New York courts have read that extremely broadly. And even though these crimes alleged between the two states are different, in New York we were talking about stalking, the New York, the federal court was talking about stalking. The New York courts have read this thing in a very robust way. The odds are that they will essentially extinguish the New York claims. That was what happened with Paul Manafort because of how that provision is treated by New York state judges. We'll have to see. There is an argument here, particularly because the federal judge found in an earlier key ruling that the stalking charges were not crimes of violence by definition. Now that creates a real basis for the prosecutors in New York to say, look, the federal court distinguished this in a critical way that we believe moves us outside of double jeopardy. So he's going to have the advantage in New York, but it is not dispositive. Now this is a very dangerous play to some extent for the defense because it was in the federal system that he was looking at his most severe potential sentence because there's no parole in the federal system. So if he gets life, that's going to be higher than what he would get in the state system. But I think he's counting on or hoping that by making this plea early, the judge will go down on the sentencing scale and give him some hope that he might still be released before the end of his life. Now, having said that, John, I want to add one thing, and that is right after the defense gave its statement, I posted something on X that said, I've been a criminal defense attorney my whole career. I would not have given that statement. I think it was a mistake. The reason is that you just laid out a high-risk strategy, a Hail Mary pass to this judge. I don't think it helps to go in front of her courthouse and say, my client's a victim and has been unfairly treated in the system. That was the judge that just got endless criticism about her dismissal of key issues against Mangione. So she had previously ruled in his favor in very important ways, and yet you're in front of her courthouse saying, you know, he's been really unfairly treated, and, you know, this is his struggle with the healthcare industry. One of the things that judge is looking at is how to counter his message. He murdered this executive to send a message to the country. She now has to send a message with her sentencing, and I would not have given that statement in front of her courthouse.
To that point, Jonathan, the defense attorney clearly believes that. I mean, unless she just made it up and threw it out there. When she says, in her mind, right, when she says Mangione has been treated unfairly and been treated worse than every other accused in the state, what is she referring to?
Yeah, that's a very good question. And I want to also say, Kerry made a very important point here and said, you know, the defense has to stick to its narrative, and you don't want to undermine it. So that's a very important point to make. But, you know, I wasn't quite sure where that unfairness was coming from, because in both the New York and federal proceedings, they won major issues. And I give that credit to the defense team, which I think did extraordinarily well. But I thought that defense statement went too far. And I also, if I was defense counsel, I would have started by expressing sympathy for the family that was there today. You know, that's a key moment that you have to show the judge there's remorse here. And that didn't exactly come across.
Yeah, and again, as I posited to Kerry, if you're the defense team and you're trying to play upon the sympathies of the judge to reduce sentencing from life without parole to something a little less, showing a little bit of remorse might be a good idea. Professor, always good to catch up with you. Thank you.
Be sure to like and subscribe for all the Fox News latest on YouTube and catch full shows streaming now on Fox One.